Now, we're going to work on the scarf, the shirt, and the gloves. So let's start with the scarf. So we'll come down to the scarf layer, and what we want to do is we want to add a new clipping mask layer to it, but we want it to be above all the other clipping masks. Next, we're going to select the color of our scarf. Then we're going to change the color to a little bit darker color. Next, we're going to start painting in the shadows on our scarf. And once again, like I said, if I can't get the shape perfect with the paintbrush, what I'll do is I'll come back in with the eraser and erase away until I get my shape. The hotkey for the eraser is the letter E. Awesome. Next, what I want to do is I want to create another clipping mask. So I'll add another layer and drag that above this clipping mask. Then we're going to reselect our scarf color. Now I want a lighter version of this color. So I'm going to come up, hit OK, and now I'm going to brush in my highlights. Great. Now I think my shadows are looking a little bit too dark, so I'm going to come back to my shadow layer and I'm going to bring down the opacity. I think about there looks good, and I think it's the same for my highlights. So I'm going to go to my highlight layer and I'm going to bring down the opacity on that also. Right about there should be good. Now let's label all of those layers. So we'll label this highlight. We'll label the next one shadow. And we'll label this last one color. Now we can close this folder. Next, let's move on to the shirt. So we'll come to our shirt layer and we're going to create a new clipping layer. Now we'll drag that to the top. Now let's select the color of our shirt. Then we're going to darken that almost to black. We'll hit OK. Then let's start painting on the shadow on our shirt. Remember that you can use the eraser to erase areas to better create your shapes, as you see me doing here. Now, let's bring down the opacity on that layer. I think about 50% should be good. Now let's create a new clipping mask. We want this one to be below our shadow layer. Now we're going to select this blue on his gloves, and using our brush tool, we're going to paint in some cool designs onto his shirt. Remember not to worry about making mistakes, because you can always undo them. Great. So now you can see why we wanted to put this layer underneath our shadow layer. So that way, the shadows were being cast on both the brown and the blue parts of the shirt. Alright, now let's label these layers. So we'll start with the top one. We'll call it shadow. And we'll move on to the next one. We'll call this blue. Then let's call this last one color. Great. Now let's close that folder. And now we can move on to the gloves. So let's create a new clipping mask. And let's bring it above our color layer. Next, we're going to select this dark blue right here that's in the shadow. So we want to grab that color. And now we can start painting in the shadows on the gloves. This way the shadows match the shadows on a shirt. Now right here, I'm trying to create a shape with the shadows that will give the form of a thumb and a fist. Awesome. Now I know that the blue in this shadow and the blue in these shadows should match, but sometimes things just don't look right and you don't have to follow rules strictly when you're creating artwork. So I'm going to bring down the opacity on these guys because I think it'll look better. I think right about there should do at 75%. Awesome. Our character is really starting to come along.